MSNBC's Cal Perry is in New York in our newsroom with new information about the shooter. Cal, people are very intense in wanting to know motive, background, life experience, what drove this former Marine to do what he did today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting where the investigators are starting, which is trying to uncover the digital footprint of the shooter. One of the things that has been left online are a number of YouTube videos. Included in these YouTube videos is a video in which he basically says, the shooter, that he has affiliations to no group. Take a listen.
I'm affiliated with the spirit of justice. Nothing else. Nothing more, nothing less. All right? You see Convos with Cosmo. That's me. I created that. That's what I'm affiliated with. Conversations with Cosmo.
So what is Conversations with Cosmo? Well, it's a website in which the domain name, we can now trace back through our investigative unit, leads to an address in Kansas City. That address is being raided by police and has been raided in just the past few hours. There's also a Twitter page, Chris, Conversations with Cosmo. And again, we're searching for motive here, and that's sometimes a very difficult thing. But a number of these posts on the Twitter page would lead us to believe, again, that the shooter had something against the police. He tweets on July the 7th, quote, "Since 2000, 149 people have died at the hands of police. To date, no officer has been charged in any of those deaths." He tweeted this morning at 1 a.m. in the morning, quote, this is very eerie, by the way, Chris, quote, "Just because you wake up every morning doesn't mean that you're living, and just because you shed your physical body doesn't mean that you're dead." So again, investigators are going to be looking at this entire digital footprint, just as you said, trying to find some kind of motive for today's shooting. Chris?
Well, let me ask you, how active was he online? I mean, was he a guy who people knew, or was he only talking to himself?
He was incredibly active online. He had a blog. He had blog posts. He put out videos. He had even something that he called himself a nutritionist, a personal trainer. He had a thing that he gave advice to men on books to read, on music, on movies. To answer the question that I think you're really asking, Chris, I don't think many people looked at this stuff. I mean, okay, he had a blog. Anyone can have a blog, but no, it was not heavily followed. It took a great deal of digging just to find this blog. So he wasn't well followed. It wasn't a widely followed blog, but extensive. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of tweets. We're talking about hundreds of videos, and it's going to take a long time for investigators to churn through all of this.
You know, I'm not a psychiatrist, but he seems like a solipsist. He seems to have created this universe around himself in which he happily inhabits. We don't know anything about how he went from being this guy, a virtual person, doing this harmless stuff about the world, and somehow becoming active, moving into Baton Rouge, going there perhaps for this purpose.
No, and how did he move from being a decorated Marine who served in Iraq to going to Texas shortly after the shooting in Texas, where he walked the streets protesting police violence, he said, with a body camera? How did he go from that to what we saw today? I don't know that there are easy answers to this question. I can tell you, between the Dallas shooting and the shooting today, we've had 2 former members of the military kill 8 police and wound another 10, including a number of veterans. And in this country every day, Chris, and this is a statistic that is hard to wrap your head around, roughly 20 veterans commit suicide every day in the United States. That's according to the Veterans Administration. So I think we're going to be talking about guns a lot in the coming days, but I think we're also going to be talking about veterans.
Well, we got an expert to talk about that, but Cal Perry, I'm amazed at how well you've done this today in just a few hours. Thanks so much, Cal Perry with NBC. Right now, let's go to another expert on a different level of this. That's Malcolm Nance, MSNBC terror analyst. Malcolm, what do you see when you look at this?
What I see is a complete jumble of potential ideology and mixing with some of the circumstantial evidence that we're getting from the web. And until a lot of that has been confirmed, we're really going to have to withhold judgment. We know that this man, like the Dallas shooter, was a former military person, a Marine, which might explain the accuracy of his fire. The use of a ruse as opposed to a protest is very significant. But what I think is even more, and again, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but you know, if you go and do some of the internet searching, the Wall Street Journal posted an article that he may have been related to an anti-government extremist group, which called the we'll reserve that, which may have been involved in many cases of fraud and gets people like this who have mental defects to believe that they have no obligations to the United States and that the United States has no ability to tax or control them. That is dangerous because as I train law enforcement around the United States, especially SWAT officers, groups that belong to these sovereign citizen type organizations, they are the first people that will go to guns with you. They are arguably more dangerous than ISIS on a day-to-day basis in the United States.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. Not much time tonight, but I've learned a lot. Malcolm Nance. U.S. Congressman Garrett Graves represents the